The internet is full of people arguing over which diet is best. Keto, paleo, Mediterranean, You can barely go to the grocery store these days without seeing someone making a TikTok yelling at a random fruit. With all of this talk over which diet you should choose, no one is teaching you how to actually stick to your diet once you've chosen it. That's what this video is for. But before we get into it, I need you to know one thing. I am not a fan of doing a diet. Diet implies giving something up, whether it's going keto and giving up carbs, going carnivore and giving up everything that isn't meat and eggs, going Weight Watchers and only eating food with their silly little logo slapped on. If you've been following along, you know you don't need to give up any foods, especially the foods that you love, in order to lose body fat. You just need to be in a calorie deficit. So this video is about sticking to a calorie deficit rather than a diet. So why is this important? Firstly, because according to this study, it doesn't actually matter which diet you choose. People with the most successful weight loss were those who could stick to their diet regardless of which one they actually chose. Secondly, the people that manage to stick to their diet during a fat loss phase tend to be the ones that also manage to keep it off. So how do you actually stick to a diet? When you're setting up this whole diet thing, you need to be mindful of two things. Number one, set your diet up around your preferences. Do you love pizza? Donuts? Then going keto is probably one of the worst decisions you could probably make. Do you love fatty fish, peanut butter, cheese? Then don't pull your fats down so low that you can never have those things in your day-to-day eating schedule. Don't make dieting harder than it needs to be is the main message here, right? Number two, have realistic expectations. If you've slowly gained weight over a number of years, expecting to lose it all in a number of weeks just doesn't make sense. Yes, there are insane transformations floating around the internet with wild amounts of weight loss within very short time frames. But this expectation is pushed on you even more by TV shows like The Biggest Loser. Want to know what happens to the majority of those contestants after the show? Most of them tend to gain all of the weight back. Some of them gain even more back because the crash dieting suppresses their metabolism and dysregulates their hunger and satiety hormones too. Instead of aiming for some random number per week, aim to lose between 0.5 and 1% of your total body weight on a weekly basis. Dieting is a marathon, not a sprint. So that's how to set your diet up the right way. Now you need to know how to succeed during the dieting phase. So number three is update your food environment. When you come home from a hard day of work, do you trust yourself to take the meat out of the freezer, cook the rice, chop up the veggies, and so on, when it's so easy to just order a delicious pizza? Don't get me wrong, we're all about pizza, me particularly, even when dieting. Especially when dieting. But we tend to use an approach called macro cycling to fit it in with our weekly calories rather than relying on having it every single night. If there are foods you want to have more of, you need to make them more visible, more accessible, and definitely more convenient. This can be as simple as taking the time on a Sunday to stock up on the foods you want to be in your diet. And maybe putting that cookie jar a little further out of reach if you know you can't trust yourself just to have the one or two that fit into your macros. The food environment doesn't end in the kitchen though. Your office space is probably going to be next on the list for an audit. Make sure the foods you've got readily available to you when you're bored, stressed, busy, or all of the above serve your goals rather than inhibit them. Speaking of changing how you're eating, number 4 is eat mindfully. This means eating with no distractions. Put your phone down, close the laptop, and focus on the meal in front of you. This sounds a little bit weird, but just try it once and you'll probably understand. Chew your food 20 times before swallowing. Your meal is going to last you long enough that by the time you've finished eating, your hunger and satiety signals will hopefully actually kick in properly. This means you'll actually be full rather than still feeling hungry after just wolfing down a meal really quickly. And it's going to help you stick to your diet and a calorie deficit. Speaking of staying full, number 5 is eat big meals at similar times each day. When you constantly graze on snacks and small meals throughout the day, you never really give your body enough of a reason to actually feel full. But opting for bigger meals and eating them at roughly the same time each day helps you make the best use of your hunger and satiety signals. Leptin is your satiety hormone, which signals to your brain that you're full. Ghrelin is your hunger-inducing peptide hormone, which is produced when your stomach is empty to signal that you need some food. When you eat big meals, your leptin goes up, so you're more full, and your ghrelin goes down, so you're less hungry. Won't having larger meals mean you'll be more hungry in between meals? At the start, it might, especially if you're a chronic snacker or a grazer, but over time, what we can find is that larger meals less frequently throughout the day tend to mean that you can actually better satisfy those hunger cravings, and then when food is out of sight, it can tend to be out of mind. Number 6 is sleep more. Not only does lack of sleep tend to make you pretty hangry, increase your cravings, and make your diet exponentially more difficult, it might actually prevent fat loss too. In this study, the participants were split into 2 groups. Group A were allowed in bed 5.5 hours per night. Group B were allowed 8.5 hours. Both groups did lose weight. They were both in a calorie deficit. But the sleep-deprived group lost more muscle and less fat than the other group, which is clearly not ideal. And while you might think that you don't care about keeping your muscle, the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism will be, and the easier it is to lose future body fat. You need your beauty sleep, so please make sure to get it. And last but certainly not least, number 7, set up a macro cycling method. Macro cycling refers to the idea of eating a little bit less on the days when maybe you're not as hungry to create way more room for the foods that you love when you actually need them or want them. It's as simple as thinking about your calories as a weekly number rather than a daily number. For instance, let's say your maintenance is 2,500 calories and you want to be in a 500 calorie deficit, so your daily target is now 2,000 calories. That's 14,000 calories per week. Now, you could do 7 days of 2,000 calories each day, or you could do 1,800 calories Monday to Friday, and then do 3,000 calories on Saturday, followed by maybe 2,000 calories on Sunday. Either way, it's 14,000 calories across the week. Now again, it's not about which diet you follow, but rather making sure you can actually stick to it for long enough to see results and then keep them. If you like the idea of using macro cycling to make it easier to stick to a calorie deficit, you need my macro cycling manual in your life. This will teach you exactly how to set up your own diet in a way that allows you to fit in all of the foods you love within a schedule that actually works for you. To get your hands on a copy of my macro cycling manual, simply comment the word macro down below and I'll send it right over to you.